Have you ever felt a connection so powerful, yet so wrong, that it threatened to tear your family apart? I'm Monica, and at 25, I found myself caught in an unthinkable situation. My story begins on a sunny afternoon by our family pool. As my father approached, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. Little did I know that moment would change everything. It was just another family dinner, or so I thought. Mom had prepared her famous lasagna, and the familiar scent filled our dining room. Dad sat at his usual spot, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he scrolled through his phone. I remember thinking how ordinary it all felt. But then, as I reached for the salad bowl, I caught my father's gaze. It wasn't the typical glance of a parent looking at their child. There was an intensity, a heat that made my breath catch in my throat. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. I felt a rush of confusion, my heart racing as I tried to make sense of what had just happened. As the evening wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. I found myself hyper-aware of every movement, every word spoken. Was I imagining things? Had that look meant what I thought it did? The conflict within me was overwhelming. On one hand, there was a spark of excitement, a forbidden thrill. On the other, a wave of guilt and shame washed over me. Over the next few days, I noticed subtle changes in Dad's behavior. He seemed to find more reasons to be in the same room as me, his hand lingering a bit too long when he passed me the remote. Our conversations took on a new depth, filled with double meanings and loaded silences. I tried to rationalize it, to convince myself it was all in my head, but deep down, I knew. The psychology of forbidden attraction is complex, rooted in the thrill of the taboo and the intensity of shared secrets. As much as I wanted to deny it, I found myself drawn into this dangerous dance. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Dad turned to me with a vulnerability I'd never seen before. In that moment, I realized my feelings weren't one-sided. The air between us crackled with unspoken desire and the weight of potential consequences. I knew I was standing on the edge of a precipice. Everything I thought I knew about love, family, and myself was about to be challenged. With my heart pounding, I made a decision that would change everything. I leaned in, closing the gap between us, ready to test the waters of this forbidden connection. They say the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. As our forbidden relationship intensified, I found myself becoming a master of deception. But at what point does protecting a secret become a betrayal of one's own identity? Our stolen moments became more frequent, each one a delicate balance of passion and paranoia. A brush of hands while passing in the hallway, lingering glances across the dinner table. These small gestures now carried the weight of our shared secret. But it was during a family barbecue that I nearly shattered our carefully constructed facade. As relatives mingled in the backyard, Dad and I found ourselves alone in the kitchen. The air crackled with tension as he pulled me close, his lips finding mine in a desperate kiss. Lost in the moment, we didn't hear the approaching footsteps until it was almost too late. I barely managed to step away and grab a platter of burgers as my aunt rounded the corner, her curious gaze darting between us. From that day on, maintaining composure around Mom became a Herculean task. Every innocent question felt like an accusation, every motherly touch a reminder of my betrayal. I crafted elaborate lies about late-night study sessions and new friendships, each falsehood adding another layer to the web of deceit I was weaving. The psychological toll of living this double life was immense. I found myself constantly on edge, rehearsing cover stories and analyzing every interaction for potential slip-ups. The cycle of dishonesty began to feed itself, each lie necessitating another to maintain the illusion of normalcy. As our secret deepened, so did the risks we took. One evening, thinking the house was empty, Dad and I became careless. Lost in a passionate embrace on the living room couch, we didn't notice Mom's car pulling into the driveway. The sound of her key in the lock sent us scrambling, hearts pounding as we tried to compose ourselves. When she walked in, finding us breathless and flushed, I mumbled something about a spider scare. The look of confusion on her face haunted me for days. Yet, strangely, this near miss only intensified our connection. The shared adrenaline, the thrill of almost being caught, seemed to bind us even closer together. As we navigated this treacherous path, I couldn't help but wonder how long we could keep dancing on the edge before everything came crashing down around us. Family secrets have a way of seeping into every interaction, poisoning even the most innocent moments. As my relationship with my father deepened, the strain between my mother and me became unbearable. I never imagined how close we would come to the truth being exposed. The first sign that something was amiss came during a quiet Sunday breakfast. My mother's eyes lingered on me longer than usual, her brow furrowed with concern. "Is everything all right, Monica?" she asked, her voice laced with an undercurrent of suspicion. I mumbled a vague response, but I could feel the weight of her gaze long after I'd left the table. As days turned into weeks, the pressure mounted. Every phone call, every hushed conversation with my father became a potential landmine. I found myself constantly on edge, crafting elaborate stories to explain my absences or sudden changes in plans. The guilt gnawed at me relentlessly, affecting my sleep and appetite. I'd catch myself zoning out during conversations, my mind replaying stolen moments with Dad, only to snap back to reality with a jolt of shame. My relationship with Mom suffered the most. Where we once shared everything, now there was a chasm of unspoken words between us. I'd flinch when she'd reach out to brush my hair from my face, afraid she'd somehow read the truth in my eyes. Our once lively dinners became stilted affairs, filled with awkward silences and forced small talk. Research shows that hidden relationships can significantly disrupt family dynamics, leading to a breakdown of trust and communication. I was living proof of this, watching helplessly as the bonds that had once held our family together began to fray. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday evening. Mom cornered me in the kitchen, her eyes brimming with a mix of anger and hurt. "What's going on with you and your father?" she demanded, her voice quivering. For a moment, I considered spilling everything, the words rising in my throat like bile. But fear won out, and I stammered out another lie. As I watched tears form in her eyes, I realized with crushing clarity that our situation was unsustainable. The web of deception I'd woven was suffocating us all, and something had to give. Standing there in the kitchen, the sound of rain pounding against the windows, I knew I was approaching a crossroads. The time for hard decisions had arrived, and the consequences would reshape our family forever. They say the truth will set you free, but what if it threatens to destroy everything you hold dear? As I stood there in the kitchen, I had no idea that the next 24 hours would push me to my breaking point and force me to confront the harsh reality of my choices. The next morning, I woke to find my mother had left for an impromptu visit to her sister. The house felt eerily quiet, amplifying the tension that had been building for months. As I made my way downstairs, I found my father sitting at the kitchen table, his face etched with concern. "Monica, we need to talk," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The gravity in his tone made my stomach lurch. As we sat across from each other, the weight of our actions hung heavy in the air. Our conversation started hesitantly, but soon words began to tumble out. We spoke of the passion we'd shared, the guilt that consumed us, and the fear of losing everything. I could see the conflict in my father's eyes, mirroring my own inner turmoil. "I love you, Monica," he said, his voice cracking. "But this ... what we're doing, it's tearing our family apart." His words hit me like a physical blow, forcing me to confront the consequences of our actions. As we talked, I felt a strange mix of emotions washing over me. The love I felt for him was undeniable, but so was the crushing guilt of betraying my mother. I thought about the strained family dinners, the lies, the constant fear of discovery. Was this passion worth the price we were paying? The conversation lasted for hours, punctuated by tears and moments of painful silence. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the kitchen, I knew I had to make a decision. The situation was unsustainable, and the longer we continued, the more damage we would cause. With a heavy heart, I looked into my father's eyes. "We can't do this anymore," I said, my voice barely audible. "It's destroying us, destroying our family. We need to end it." The pain in his eyes was unbearable, but I saw relief there too. We both knew it was the right decision, no matter how much it hurt. As we embraced one last time, I felt a chapter of my life closing and an uncertain future stretching out before me. As I look back on this tumultuous chapter of my life, I'm struck by how profoundly it's changed me. The choices I made, the secrets I kept, have left an indelible mark on my soul. Love, I've learned, is a complex and sometimes painful force that can blur the lines we once thought were clear. Family bonds are both fragile and resilient. We hurt each other, we heal, we forgive. It's all part of the messy, beautiful tapestry of human relationships. Moving forward won't be easy. There's still so much to process, so many conversations to have. But I'm committed to the hard work of healing. The future feels uncertain, but not without hope. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I'm determined to face it with honesty and courage. This experience has taught me the value of authenticity, even when it's difficult. As I take my first steps into this new chapter, I carry with me a deeper understanding of love, family, and myself.